as a hopefully future marine mammal veterinarian, as you once knew, it's not a lucrative part of the veterinary field. Honestly, it's probably one of the worst. So, but we do it because we love it, and the dolphins are stinking cute, and that's what I keep telling myself anyway.
Aquatic and exotic medicine has been known as a challenging specialty to get into, partly due to the limited competitive nature of the residencies and internships. However, as Michelle Greenfield writes on her LinkedIn, even if they say it's a 10% chance, why can't you be part of that 10%? Michelle is currently in vet school at Cornell, about a month away from taking the NAVLE. She's been determined to work with aquatic animals for years and wasn't even going to let a global pandemic stop her from working towards that goal. It was early in the pandemic that she started a podcast called Aquadocs. And stay till the end for some fun outtakes. Plus, I couldn't help but sprinkle in some Finding Nemo references throughout. So enjoy.
Why I went to vet school is an interesting story. Before going to vet school, I really thought I was going to get a PhD in marine mammal behavior. That was what I was interested in. I'd always been interested in dolphins from an early age. Everyone tells the story. The first time I saw a dolphin, it was the ocean or at SeaWorld. I'm one of those kids. But I really thought it was going to be a PhD in marine mammal behavior. And then my first summer in college, I had the opportunity to go down to South Africa and work at Sandcob, which is a seabird rehabilitation center. And there I got to work with African penguins and other seabirds in a rehabilitative type setting. And it was my first experience really with veterinary medicine. Growing up, I had gone into the OR with my dad. He's a human surgeon. And so I really enjoyed that. Love seeing him in action, love being able to, when I was super young, I put stickers on the charts. As I got older, I got to be in the OR and watch what was happening. And so I thought, this is an interesting path. I should explore it more. And then watching the veterinarian at this clinic, I realized she got to do everything. She got to be hands-on with the animals. She got to be doing research. She got to do field work. And she was always running around with her hands doing something. And I realized I really like that atmosphere. I really like being busy, not too busy, but in a good sense. But I like using my hands for things. I love field work. Like if I could have just done 12 months a year of field work, I would have stayed the PhD route. But I realized that it would have probably been 1 to 2 months of field work and then 10 to 11 months in front of my computer, analyzing my results, writing up grants, writing up my dissertation, writing up other papers, which I do enjoy scientific writing. I really do. But I didn't want to be doing that full time. And so I realized if I pursued this veterinary route, I could still go do field work and travel the world working with amazing creatures. I could still work on scientific writing, but I could also day to day be doing clinical medicine, getting to work with phenomenal animals and getting to see a whole other side of things. And so that's kind of what shifted my thought. And so the rest of college, I spent time getting more experience with clinical medicine. I worked at Dolphins Plus in the Keys, doing a veterinary internship with dolphins and pinnipeds, and that really confirmed this was something I wanted to do. And then I also continued my path towards research and did my thesis with the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program, where I got to do field work with wild dolphins. And so again, kind of paralleling that experience, but really demonstrating to me that as a veterinarian, I'd be able to do a wide variety of things, which is kind of what I've continued to think and do to this day.
So was all that during undergrad?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to Princeton.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing that on LinkedIn. Wow. Okay. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. So not the place you would expect for an aquatic veterinarian to come from.
Being in the Midwest right now, I can sympathize. And I grew up in North Alabama, not South Alabama. So I get you. Well, that's fantastic. So how were you able to find all these opportunities being an undergrad?
Yeah. So The first experience that I just spoke about with the penguins was actually a funny story. I was at Princeton doing a preview event for incoming first years, and they paired you with an upperclassman just to get to know the campus, ask your questions. And I'm the type of person that thinks everything is calculated. They put me with this student. It must have been for a reason. Now, having graduated college and vet school, I knew it was probably they just literally threw names together. But as an eager, 12th grader, it's like, oh my gosh, this person must love aquatic animals like I do. And she did, to an extent. She was a biology major, and she was actually a senior who was graduating. And she told me that she had done her thesis research at this penguin facility and said, Michelle, like, Princeton will send you. If you write an application, you write your grant application, they will fund you to go down there and work for a summer. And so it was really her help, guidance, and mentorship that led me there my first year. And then after that, my second summer, when I was figuring out, okay, I have dreamed of working with dolphins. I am now old enough where I can finally get the internships and work with dolphins. I Googled every combination of dolphin internship, veterinary internship, marine mammal vet, sea lion vet internship, anything that related to those words, and applied to pretty much any place that came up that I qualified for, and heard back from like one or two, and interviewed with whoever gave me an interview. And I was fortunate enough that Dolphins Plus called me and said, hey, we want you to come down for the summer. And I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Joanna Fava there and Joy Middleton. And that was fantastic. That worked out. And then, as I often tell younger students who reach out to me asking for advice how to get into this field, I kind of say, well, it's a circle. It's a vicious circle, but it's a beautiful circle. Once you're in the circle, then you can kind of hop around places, but it's really hard to get into that circle. And so my next summer, I had to do research for my thesis. It's a requirement at Princeton that you do a senior thesis. And I knew I wanted to work with dolphins. And so luckily I managed to get in contact with the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program, and they took me on. And, since then it's just been, well, we see you've been here and here. Great, you can come here. And so it's a lot of, for those listening who are younger, who are interested in this field, it is a lot of self-motivation. These opportunities are not just going to be handed to you on a platter. That being said, these opportunities are available, and all you have to do is ask. And a lot of facilities have opportunities that you can apply for. They're set internships. But if you're from an area where you don't have a large aquarium or something, or you just can't seem to land that internship or whatever, and you've got some smaller place nearby, reach out to the facility. Go stop by, see if you can talk to the veterinarian. There's so many places that are smaller that would love to have you at least shadow, help out on your weekends, whatever you can, but they might not have anything specifically organized. But that's up to you. You've got to be the one to reach out. You've got to be the one to say, I want to do this. But speaking on, just for me within this field, but I can probably vouch for a lot of my colleagues, we love it. We love what we do and we want to share it. And so if you reach out, of course, we're going to try to make it work. And if we can't, that's not on you. That's not on us. It's just the way things are. But there's a lot of cool things out there.
You seem to have a lot of enthusiasm around education and starting these opportunities to really share your passion and share more about aquatic medicine. So can you tell us the story a little bit about how you've started some of these educational opportunities?
Sure. I didn't realize initially that teaching and education was something I was passionate about. I think over the past couple of years, I've started to realize that I absolutely love it. I just love learning. And I think by that, I'm able to help share it with other people. So as a veterinary student, there really aren't a lot of opportunities to learn about aquatic medicine. There's a couple summer programs, and I was fortunate to be able to participate in Aquavet, which is hosted by Cornell University at Roger Williams University. And that was great. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, I got pushed back a year. And being my ambitious, inquisitive self, I really wanted to learn more. And so I was listening to other podcasts, veterinary, as well as animal training. And there really wasn't enough of the material that I wanted to listen to. And textbooks are great, but I mean, we've all read textbooks, they get pretty dry after a while. So I thought, maybe I'll start a podcast. Do I know a thing about podcasting? Absolutely not. But I love talking to people. I love hearing great stories. How hard could this be? And so that's pretty much what happened. I spent the summer of 2020 figuring out what a podcast is and reaching out to some of my colleagues who I already had and said, hey, I'm going to start this thing. Are you interested in being a part of it? And of course, everyone was like, of course, we'd love to. This sounds great. We want to support you. And so I did my first interviews, kind of got those together, and then just started reaching out to people and just saying, hey, here's this new aquatic veterinary podcast. The goal is to make this a free and easily accessible resource for anyone in the world who wants to listen about aquatic medicine. We're going to highlight research. We're going to highlight cool cases. We're going to highlight just innovative things in the field of aquatic medicine. And we're going to highlight, everyone's got a different career path. Let's just talk and put material out there. And it's been amazing. Most people who I reach out to are really excited about it. I mean, it's not every day someone emails you and says, hi, will you talk to me for an hour and share your story? And, I want to make you famous, right? Like, that's great. Everyone loves that. There are some people who don't love that, but most people love talking about themselves and sharing cool stories. So it's really just grown from there. Every interview just helps facilitate another interview. And as of now, we have over 60 episodes published. We're reaching listeners in over 100 countries and have over 30,000 downloads, which is unbelievable. And I couldn't even have imagined that we'd be growing this much. But I think the best part about this is that at the end of the day, it is an educational resource. And what I mean by that is, sure, there's content out there that people can listen to. They can hear about all these amazing stories and journeys, but they also now have a list of people who are in this field, who they can contact to get other advice. Or I can't tell you how many high school and college students have reached out to me and said, hey, I didn't even know this career path was a thing. And because now I've listened to this podcast, this is something I'm considering. Or I'm still going to do small animal, but I'm open to seeing a pet goldfish in my clinic. So it's just amazing to see, even for myself. I thought, okay, an aquatic vet is, a vet that works at a big aquarium. No, that's just probably one tiny slice of what it means to be an aquatic veterinarian. And it's just been unbelievable to really open my eyes and all of my listeners' eyes as to what's out there.
Yeah. And to that point, since this is a podcast that is showing all the different things that you can do in veterinary medicine, can you talk about some of the people that you have met in this field and just showing some of the different things that you can do in aquatic medicine?
Yeah, of course. So a couple that come to mind, Dr. Marina Evanchich, she is a board certified radiologist and imaging specialist, and she works on aquatic and zoological animals. And she's now, I think, the only one, if not one of the only ones, who that's her focus. And so she travels all around consulting with CTs and ultrasounds and everything like that for these animals, which is just amazing. But then you have Dr. Marcus Krim, who works for IDEX, and he's mostly in the laboratory doing diagnostic sampling. And so he's working with aquatic species, but he's not doing clinical medicine.
And that's really valuable to have somebody who understands how to interpret blood work and all of those diagnostics in these animals specifically.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is absolutely right. I was working on a research project my first year in vet school, and I was looking for certain blood levels, and there are no levels for some of these species. And, that's also part of why I love this aspect of the profession where, there's over 33,000 species of fish. One day I'm going to end up with a species where, yeah, we don't know. We've never seen it before. Or, oh, we saw its long lost cousin 10 years ago. It's probably the same, but it's not, like if you were talking breeds of dog, there could be, German Shepherds get everything. It could be one of those things. And you just don't know that this is the German Shepherd of fish. So yeah, it's a crazy world out there.
It is a great field to practice some creativity.
Yeah, it certainly is. Some others that come to mind, Dr. Sarah Waltinez, she's finishing her PhD looking at sea star welfare. And so we did an episode talking about what parameters do sea stars feel pain. Dr. Frederick Shetney talked about, do fish feel pain? But what about sea stars? What about our invertebrate friends? So that's something, that we're doing. And then I think a huge aspect that I'm personally very fascinated with and always like to emphasize are the trainers. Are the trainers that we work with in zoological facilities. And, that relationship is so important. And so I've had a few trainers on. I had Ken Ramirez on to talk about his training philosophy and really how the veterinarian can assist the trainer and how the trainer can assist the veterinarian and how important that relationship is. So there's just so many assets. I mean, I could go on. We've had 60 episodes. I could list all of them. Or those of you listening who are so intrigued can just check out our episodes. But I promise you, no two people are the same. No two paths are the same. And even if somebody says, oh, I'm an aquatic vet at X facility, and then the next person goes, oh, I'm an aquatic vet at X facility, they definitely didn't take the same path to get there. Their experiences are so varied. One of them could be a rock star with fish. The other one might be more specialized in pinniped. Another one could have like a super cool knowledge of eels. There's just so much out there that it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Is this a pretty close collaborative community as well?
Yeah, it's pretty special because there aren't that many of us. It's pretty small. There are some different groups. So there's the American Association of Fish Veterinarians, which, as the name implies, focus more on fish. There's the International Association of Aquatic Animal Medicine, which encompasses all, though there tend to be a little bit more of the, as we like to say, charismatic megafauna, which are our marine mammal friends, tend to be more in there. And then you have WAVMA, which is the World Aquatic Veterinary Medical Association. And that one's international. So that really brings together these aquatic veterinarians from all over the world. And it's amazing. You go to a conference and there's only a couple hundred people at these conferences. So they're not that big. And it's like old home week. Everyone knows each other. And, it's stories of, oh, do you remember that time? Or even just the other day, I have a friend staying with me right now that I met at one of the summer programs. And we're both going to be aquatic veterinarians. And we posted a photo together on Facebook, and, immediately there's all these likes on it, and it's all of our colleagues at aquariums and other places around the country. And it's a beautiful community. I'm saddened because I have yet to actually go to an in-person conference through all of vet school because of, this world pandemic. But even so, the community's been wonderful, and through virtual get-togethers or conferences, we've still been able to meet. But I look forward to the day when I finally get to meet all of these people in person who I've talked to and heard so much about.
You mentioned you don't want to blame the pandemic for the podcast or that journey, but in a way that's allowed you to, be close to these people, network and get to know people despite not being able to physically meet. So you're right. It's really hard to replace in-person connections, but I really admire the initiative that you took, that it's like, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to meet these amazing people and I'm still going to have this career that I've always dreamed about. Now, with all careers, there are some challenges. Can you address some of the challenges of being a aquatic veterinarian, and then also just to help people understand what type of person would really thrive as an aquatic veterinarian? So what are some things you would recommend people consider being an aquatic veterinarian?
That's a good question. I think one of the hard things that we've alluded to previously is just there aren't a lot of resources available, and the entire veterinary curriculum is based on dog, cat, horse, cow. I got I was fortunate that there were 2 courses I was actually able to take at school focused on fish, but they were electives and they weren't that long. And so I think one of the hard things is that it really does take a lot of self-motivation and initiative. About 25% of my class first year said that they were going to be exotic veterinarians. They were interested in zoo wildlife exotics. At this point, as 4th years, I don't know the exact statistic. I think about 10% tracked zoo wildlife exotic type things. And I think that there are a handful of us who are gung-ho, zoo, aquarium, exotic driven and are going to get there. And there's nothing wrong with the fact of not pursuing that. There's a lot of great things out there that aren't in this field that are enticing. I mean, right now, as a graduating veterinarian, everyone wants you. And so to go make a lot of money, to have great hours, to work 4 days a week, it's really hard to turn that down. And so I think what type of person kind of goes hand in hand with what's hardest, which is just, you have to be dedicated. This has to be what you really want to do. And especially within the fish community, in recent times, actually in the last couple of weeks, the American Association of Fish Veterinarians have put forward a proposal that they've been working on for a really long time to be identified as a specialty within the AVMA, the American Veterinary Medical Association. And so that's a huge deal to be recognized as a specialty. I mean, there are people who only see fish day to day. They don't see any of your furry friends. And to have never been able to actually learn that material in school, to have really had to do that after school, and to have some people even look at you and say, wait a second, you just see betta and goldfish and you call yourself a vet and you make money? I don't understand. And that's really hard, right? Like, that's really hard to have people look at you outside and within the veterinary profession, to have your colleagues saying that. So I think you have to just be dedicated. You have to be tough. You have to be willing to make your own adventure. Really, everything that I've done, I've had so much support, and I'm thankful to all of my mentors and colleagues. But a lot of it has been sending out cold emails and putting myself out there. And so I think for those listening who are interested in this path, like, you really do have to have, as the New York Times spelling bee word was recently, chutzpah. You got to have chutzpah to go forward with this. But it's so rewarding and it's amazing. And, as we were chatting offline earlier, this is all I've ever wanted to do. I've wanted to work with these creatures, and I will do it. And some people stumble into this path later. Some people come in earlier, whatever it is, but you have to want it and be willing to work for it. But it's extraordinarily rewarding.
And another neat thing about veterinary medicine is that sometimes you get multiple projects that are very different. So you mentioned something about having an equine project on top of everything. So do you mind telling us the story behind that?
Yes. Dolphins, horses, it's kind of weird, but it all makes sense in a strange way. So over the past year or two, I was presented with an opportunity to work on a project with horses. And so what we're doing is we are looking to develop a sensor that can provide an accurate weight measurement on horses. So for those of you who might not know, the normal way that the current industry standard for weighing a horse is actually using a girth tape and estimating based upon the size of the horse, which, as you might imagine, is really inaccurate. And there are definitely better ways out there. And there are scales. There are legitimate scales like you and I would stand on, like you'd put a dog on at a clinic. But it's not like your average rural veterinarian is going to have a giant equine scale in the back of their truck. So you're going to have that more at a referral hospital, which what we have at Cornell. But what we're trying to do is develop a sensor so that way anyone, an owner, a trainer, a veterinarian, can just have this, bring it to any barn, get the weight of a horse, and then move on with their merry day. And what's better is we're also trying to develop this such that it can stay on the horse for long term. And because we're going to put these on each leg, you're able to actually get the weight distribution and monitor that over time, which is actually pretty important because not only is getting a weight is great, but one of the earliest signs of lameness in horses, which accounts for honestly one of the biggest losses in the equine industry, is shifting in weight. And so if we're able to see that earlier on, these clients can then call their veterinarian and say, hey, I'm noticing some changes. Maybe we want to look into this. And who knows, like, we're not trying to solve lameness. That's not something that we're ever going to be able to do. But maybe we can save some horses' lives along the way by providing that early diagnosis. It's very different than dolphins. But I think what's been really amazing about this is that I've learned a lot of important business skills through this. I've done the Veterinary Entrepreneurship Academy's Idea 5 competition, which essentially helps veterinary students who are founding companies learn how to found a company and what things you need to know, but more focused with the veterinary aspect rather than somebody going through business school who has that training, focusing more on the veterinary training and how we think as scientists and how we can then learn business on top of that. So yeah, it is in the early stages. We've just started testing our prototype and are hopeful that by the end of this calendar year, we'll have working sensors that we'll be able to test on a broader scale and eventually bring to market.
I love all the innovation that's coming into veterinary medicine. And you never know where, again, like you said, this is teaching you some business skills. But I think we have to be resourceful in veterinary medicine, and we use a lot of comparative thought process when it comes to our different species. So you never know when this project will actually help you down the road one day.
Oh,
Go
it
ahead.
already has. I mean, apart from just learning about horse anatomy, which is definitely going to help me for my NAVLE in a few months, but at the same time, I'm learning such important skills about public speaking, about how to go to investors, about how to sell an idea, putting a pitch deck together. And I'm actually working on a conference presentation right now about science communication and practicing your elevator pitch. And, how better to learn how to give an elevator pitch than every week having to give a pitch on the exact same topic and getting critiqued on it? Because how else are you going to talk about your research, sell your product? Whatever it is, these are all skills that are just fluid between the different areas of the industry.
That's fantastic. So I know right now your big focus is the NAVLE, but you have had a lot of experience. You've gotten to meet a lot of different people in aquatic medicine. So what do you see for the near future past NAVLE? Because you're going to pass it. Don't worry. What are you going to do after NAVLE?
Yes, that is the overarching goal of the next 4 months and 30 days, but we're not counting. Yeah. So right now, I'm trying to keep a lot of options open. Obviously, I'm very interested in aquatic and zoological medicine. And so I don't know where that's going to take me. I'd love to work in a facility where I get a large diversity of species, where I'm encouraged to pursue research that relates both for my collection animals as well as their wild counterparts. And I really have enjoyed this science communication that I've been able to do over the past 2 years. And so I'm hopeful wherever I end up, whether it's continuing through Aquadocs or through another avenue, I'll be able to continue doing that because I really see such great value in putting out education material to a wide audience about what we do. Because I mean, it's pretty awesome what we do, and I'd love to share that with more people. But before I get there, I'll probably pursue a small animal rotating internship, which is pretty typical if you're going to specialize. I really want to learn how to be a doctor, and there's no better way than being thrown into a bajillion and one cases and not sleeping. And it's going to be a great year. I'm so fortunate that I have the loving support of my fiance and my family who will be there for me during that time. And then after that, potentially a specialty internship, more focused on aquatics. There are a couple residency programs open in the country that focus more on exotic species. There are none at this time that are specifically aquatic focused, but they typically rotate through a year of zoo medicine, a year of exotic specialty at a hospital medicine, and then depending on the school, either a year or some part of that as aquatic medicine. So it's definitely an option I'm trying to keep open, but jobs are also really great. And so that would definitely be something if I'm offered a job somewhere, would love to do that. But I'm excited for what will come. And I know it'll be great and I'll get to learn a lot and I'll have some fun, lovable critters in my life.
Yes. Well, for those who are really interested in learning more about aquatic medicine, where would you like to send them? Do you want to send them to your podcast or where are all the places?
Sure. I mean, shameless plug, definitely check out Aquadocs podcast. If you want to learn more about some of the speakers on each of the episodes, you can also check out our website, aquadocspodcast.com. I try to keep that up to date with little blurbs about each of the people. There's also a lot of really great resources on the websites of the organizations I mentioned previously. So WAVMA, AAFE, IAAAM, those are your three big aquatic medicine organizations. So whether you're a professional or a student, there are resources on there for you. There's a lot of web CEPD or like online educational video presentations that you can watch just to learn more. And IAAAM and AAFE do an annual conference, as well as there's lots of aquaculture conferences every year if that's more your interest. So even if you're not in the veterinary field yet, you're thinking about it, whatever, always a great place to go just to see what's happening. And those websites also have lists of textbooks and lots of other places. I said there aren't a lot of resources available. There aren't, but there are. It just depends what specifically you're looking for.
So before we get to our final questions to wrap up, you are currently a vet student and have a very unique perspective in the veterinary community. What is some wisdom that you would give to the profession from your current perspective?
I think one thing that's on my mind of late, just because I recently had my rotation on ER, was the diversity of species that come in through the typical ER. And a lot of our clinicians were not trained in exotic medicine. That was not part, and it's still not part of specializing in emergency and critical care. And so you have that, but then you have these patients coming in that need the help. And so you're calling in the exotics team. And so I think one thing to focus on would be figuring out, do we need our emergency clinicians to learn more? Do we need to have dedicated exotic focused emergency clinicians? Because stuff happens, right? Your dog eats some raisins, you're bringing it in, but your turtle has a cloacal prolapse, or somebody wants to bring in their pet goldfish because they notice spots, right? At this point, there's only so many people that know how to treat those. And so that's an area that I think would be good for us to explore. I don't have answers, but it is something that I've seen that I think would be good for us to explore. I'd be remiss if I didn't say anything about the new fish specialty that we're trying to do. These veterinarians have worked so hard to making a fish specialty, and I think it really deserves to be out there. And so we need the support of lots of people from across the board, whether they're fish focused or not, to recognize that this is an area that should be a specialty. So for anyone listening, we'd love the support on that. It's just going through the AVMA right now. And the last thing I will say is, just since I've had a lot of experience within the entrepreneurial space, I think there's a lot of potential there. I had zero interest in business or didn't really know what entrepreneurship meant before I started vet school. And then life happens, and here I am running pretty much two businesses right now. And there could be more resources and opportunities for student mentorship. And there's a lot of veterinary entrepreneurs out there. And I'm slowly starting to meet lots of amazing folks. And there's starting to become more resources available, specifically focused towards the student and building that community. But I think it's only going to continue growing. I think people are brilliant. They're coming up with these amazing ideas and want to explore them, in addition to somehow managing to, get through vet school and study and pass their boards. I think that's a really big area that's going to continue to grow, and we should put more and more energy and focus into developing it.
Yes, there is something special about our profession where we automatically have this bond when it's another veterinarian. And so I think when we can support veterinarians who are getting into the entrepreneurial spaces, that is going to be so huge for the profession. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I mean, as we were talking before, you said when you wanted to start out, you wanted to be a marine mammal vet. And my response was, oh, we're going to be friends already. And here we are. So I couldn't agree more.
Exactly. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap us up with the final 4 questions. So the first question is, what is something that is on your bucket list?
Ooh. I have always wanted to go to Antarctica, and I
Ooh.
would love to go there on a research cruise, but I am okay to settle going on one of the Nat Geo cruises. But if anyone listening needs a research assistant to go down and work with the penguins or the whales or the seals or whatever, please hit me up. That would be fantastic.
All right. You guys got to volunteer. So, question number 2, what is a simple moment that brings you joy?
I mean, if I didn't say the moment that my fiance proposed, I feel like that would be the wrong answer. But he proposed last summer on a hike in the middle of a 6-mile hike at 5 a.m. And we were in the mountains and the sun was just coming up. And it was what I thought was a simple moment, turned out to not be, but it's probably one of my happiest moments.
Aw. Good job, guy.
He did a great job.
He did. All right. Number 3 is, if you could create any law that everyone had to follow, what would be your law?
What a question. So part of me feels that as a veterinarian and steward of environmental awareness, it should be related to that. But where I'm thinking right now is I love when people share moments of positivity. And so I would love, law is a little bit extreme, but maybe like a strong suggestion would be to do like at the beginning of a work shift or something, like everyone has to share like one positive moment that happened the day before, or you do this once a week or something. I love building community and I love hearing people's happiness. So not a law, but a fun time.
I think that is a very good, strong suggestion. And it actually kind of goes into the final question, which is, what is one thing you are grateful for?
There's so many things I'm grateful for, but I think I'm just grateful for all of the mentorship, support, and love that I continue to receive, whether that's from my parents who have always encouraged me to pursue my dreams and have helped me along the way, whether it's Zach, my fiance, who literally does everything and anything that I could ever want and is amazing to me, or my professional mentors who are always reaching out and helping me with my next step, proofreading manuscripts, taking me around their facilities, hopping on the podcast for me when I'm desperate and really want to talk to them. So I'm just grateful for anyone who has ever helped me get to where I am. And I know there's going to be so many more people in the future who I will continue to be grateful to.
I've had a lot of people support me to get me where I am today in my career too. I'm always willing to talk to others about their career and or connect them to the right direction. So don't hesitate to reach out, or anyone in the profession. If you want to support this podcast, make sure to follow, subscribe on YouTube, and click the bell to get alerts for each weekly episode. Now, the story of how Michelle's fiance offered to help is wonderful, and that's next. And also keep staying for those fun outtakes at the very end.
It was so cute. He came up to me like 3 or 4 years ago and said, Michelle, like, you have crazy ideas all the time. You like to go so many different directions and they're all super cool. And I want to support you. So you have to tell me what I can do to support you and we will do it together. And then when we started developing Aquadocs and I edited the first couple and then realized, holy cow, I am not going to be able to do vet school and do all of this by myself. He said, all right, I got you. I'll learn how to edit. And now he's super proficient in it and can bust them out, relatively quickly. And he's so much better at it than I am. And I do everything else. And it's a great team. So yeah, it's worked out really well. So I got fish. I got it at the VMX conference in January, and it is plastic. It sits in its bowl, and I put a seashell in there, and all I have to do is water it like every few weeks, and it's always swimming around. It is the perfect, because I travel too much. You know?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I was so wishing every day I'd look on the ER board. I'm like, goldfish, goldfish. Michelle, no, there's no goldfish.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. What do? We swim, swim.